Most men don't break down. They fade, quietly. Dostoevsky warned, "Ignore your darkness, and you'll call slow destruction peace. You're not fine, you're sedated, and it's killing you. You keep telling yourself you're fine, you're calm, you're focused, you're over it, but you're not fine, you're numb. And numbness is not healing, it's decay, dressed in silence." Most men confuse silence with strength. They think that because they're not crying, not breaking, not screaming, they're doing well. But Dostoevsky saw it clearly. Apathy isn't proof of peace. It's evidence of something rotting inside you. You're not calm. You're disconnected from your pain, from your truth, from the part of you that still remembers what it's like to actually feel something. But that disconnection, you wear it like armor. You walk around like you've transcended emotion, when in reality you're just too afraid to admit how much you're still bleeding. Because if you admit it, you'll have to face the real you, the part you've been avoiding, the part that didn't move on. It just went quiet because no one ever taught you how to grieve. And now you call that strength. But the man who feels nothing isn't strong. He's hiding the corpse inside him, the corpse of the boy who wasn't allowed to speak, the man who wasn't allowed to break, the version of you that wanted to scream, but instead clenched his jaw and said, "It is what it is." Dostoevsky didn't write about heroes who smiled through pain. He wrote about men who suffered inwardly until the suffering became unbearable. And only then did transformation begin. You're not at peace, you're just further from yourself than you've ever been. And you've mistaken that distance for growth. You've mistaken emotional paralysis for maturity. You've confused the absence of expression with the presence of power. But power doesn't come from suppression. It comes from integration, from staring into your own abyss and saying, "I'm still here, I still feel, I'm not done." So if you've been numb, if you haven't felt anything in weeks, if nothing excites you, nothing hurts you, and every day feels like background noise, that's not stability, that's slow collapse, the kind Dostoevsky feared most, the kind you don't notice until there's nothing left to feel, because there's nothing left of you. You weren't after freedom, you were after comfort, and that's why you feel dead inside. Dostoevsky saw it in every man. We don't want liberty, we want ease. We crave numbness more than clarity. We'd rather be pacified than be powerful. Because power demands responsibility, and responsibility exposes who you really are beneath the mask. So instead of rising, you scroll, you escape, you vanish into screens, into synthetic pleasure, into noise that drowns out the voice inside you screaming, "This isn't it." You've convinced yourself that comfort is self-care, that avoidance is peace, but comfort is not peace. It's a drug, and you're high on distractions, on dopamine, on anything that stops you from having to feel. You don't feel lost because life is hard. You feel lost because you sold your soul for convenience, Netflix, porn, comfort food, quick pleasure, zero accountability. Every time you choose ease over effort, you're confirming one thing: you've given up. But the collapse doesn't look loud. It looks like being productive while avoiding your purpose. It looks like late nights staring at a screen, telling yourself you deserve to relax. It looks like chasing pleasure and calling it lifestyle. This is the quiet suicide of the modern man. No blood, no screaming, just one compromised value at a time, until there's nothing left but a shell who thinks he's doing okay. But Dostoevsky knew the truth. A man doesn't die when his heart stops. He dies the moment he chooses comfort over confrontation. The confrontation with himself, with his guilt, with his wasted time, with the shame that follows him silently every time he pretends he's fine. You're not fine. You're medicating yourself into disappearance. Every choice you make to avoid discomfort is a vote for your own erasure. And you don't even feel it anymore, because your sensitivity to truth has been dulled by indulgence. You're not escaping pain. You're burying your potential. You're numbing your calling. And worst of all, you're smiling through it, thinking you're making progress. But progress doesn't feel safe. It feels like war. War with the part of you that wants to sleepwalk through life. So if you're tired, unfocused, emotionally dead, spiritually directionless, look at how much comfort you've chosen. And realize that every time you ran from difficulty, you weren't protecting yourself. You were digging your grave. You think your life is falling apart by accident. You think your failures are random. You think your misery is just bad luck. But Dostoevsky knew better. He believed that hidden guilt always finds expression, not through breakdowns, but through patterns, through the life you unconsciously build to punish yourself. You sabotage your opportunities. You stay in relationships that drain you. You choose friends who reflect your weakness. You avoid your potential, your purpose, your power, and you tell yourself it's just life being hard. But it's not life, it's you. It's the guilt you never addressed, the shame you never owned, the responsibility you kept postponing. And now, your life reflects it, not as revenge, but as a mirror, because the psyche isn't stupid. It remembers everything. And if you refuse to take conscious accountability, it will create unconscious consequences. You'll wake up in a job you hate, with a body you can't respect, in a relationship that feels like slow death, and you'll think, why is this happening to me? But it's not happening to you. It's happening because of you. Because every time you made a choice that betrayed your higher self, you stored guilt, and guilt is energy. Unspoken, unprocessed, but not invisible. It leaks into your confidence, into your self-worth, into your standards, into the life you allow, and the pain you normalize. And here's the part that most men can't face. Every man creates the punishment he's too afraid to earn consciously. You don't need someone to destroy you. You'll do it yourself, softly, strategically, quietly, because you believe, deep down, you deserve to lose. You deserve to be abandoned. You deserve to suffer. And that belief will shape your entire reality, not because it's true, but because you never healed the guilt that convinced you it was. This is why you can't just think positive. This is why affirmations and fake confidence don't work, because your shadow remembers the lies you lived, and it won't let you evolve until you atone. Dostoevsky wrote men who were tortured by what they couldn't admit, and that's most of you. You're not tortured by the world. You're tortured by the version of yourself you keep avoiding. So what's the way out? Not escape, not numbing, not pretending, but confession. Radical, brutal honesty. Admit what you did. Admit what you didn't do. Admit what you still carry. Because until you face it, you will keep attracting a life that punishes you for never owning the man you were meant to become. Your collapse didn't begin when she left, or when life hit you, or when the world stopped being fair. It began the moment you lied to yourself, that you were okay, that you didn't care, that it didn't hurt, that numbing it made you stronger. Dostoevsky knew a man's downfall doesn't begin in the world. It begins inside him, with quiet compromises, with small self-betrayals that seem harmless until they hollow you out. And now you walk around like everything's fine, like your silence is peace. But it's not peace, it's collapse in disguise. You post your progress, you joke with your friends, you even believe your own excuses. But your habits expose you. The late night scrolling, the binge watching, the porn you swore you'd stop, the woman you keep crawling back to, the things you tolerate just to avoid being alone. That's not a routine. That's a grave you're digging. One dopamine hit at a time. You betrayed yourself, and it shows in your eyes, in your posture, in the way you flinch when someone mentions purpose because you know you're not living it. You used to want something more, to become something more. But then you told yourself the lie. It's fine, I'll figure it out later. That was the moment the descent began. And the longer you lie, the harder it gets to hear the truth. Because the truth doesn't shout, it whispers, and your distractions have made you deaf to it. Dostoevsky believed the greatest suffering isn't physical, it's spiritual death, the agony of a man who knows he's betrayed his soul and chooses to live like he hasn't. That's you. You're not broken by life, you're broken by the lies you told to survive it. Lies like, this is just how it is. Everyone settles. I don't need much, as long as I'm not hurting anyone, but you are hurting someone. You're murdering your higher self with every moment you choose comfort over courage, avoidance over alignment, distraction over discipline. And what's worse, you've gotten used to it, used to ignoring the pull, used to burying the guilt, used to the voice inside that says, this isn't who I'm meant to be. But no amount of pretending will save you. Only honesty will. Honesty that hurts, honesty that humiliates, honesty that makes you want to vomit and cry and scream and finally change. That's the only way out. Not through another fake habit tracker, not through another half-hearted goal, but through confession, through confrontation, through the death of who you pretended to be, so the man you actually are can finally breathe again. You keep waiting for her to text back, for life to settle down, for some sign from the universe to tell you, now is the time. But Dostoevsky would have told you the truth. No one's coming, not the woman, not your friends, not God, at least not in the way you're hoping, because salvation doesn't arrive gently. It's not gifted, it's suffered for, it's earned in silence, in shame, in nights where no one checks on you, because no one knows how far you've drifted from yourself, and yet you keep waiting. Waiting for someone to pull you out of the hole you keep digging. Waiting for your boss to finally recognize your effort. Waiting for the perfect moment to chase what you were born to build. But waiting is slow suicide. It doesn't kill you all at once. It rots you from the inside. While life goes on around you, you become the man who looks functional, who says all the right things, who smiles at the right time, and behind that smile, rot, because you know you've given up on yourself. You've outsourced your healing, your redemption, your purpose. You want her to inspire you. You want money to fix your insecurities. You want structure to be handed to you like a gift. But Dostoevsky's characters never got that. They were broken, tortured, confused, until they chose to suffer consciously, until they walked straight into the fire and let it remake them. That's what you're avoiding. You want the transformation without the burn, the freedom without the responsibility, the resurrection without the death. But it doesn't work like that. No woman will fill your void. No job will give you worth. No motivational quote will save your soul. Only you can. And every day you don't, you're losing pieces of yourself you won't get back. You think you're buying time. You're not. You're spending identity. Every moment you hesitate, every excuse you repeat, every promise you break to yourself takes something sacred from you, and you'll never even know how much you lost. Until one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize what's left. Key line: the longer you wait, the less of you will be left to save. And that's the part no one will say out loud, because it's too real, too ugly, too final, but you needed to hear it, because this is your wake-up call. Not to be inspired, to get up, because if you don't, you'll rot out in public, smiling the whole way. Pain isn't the problem. Avoiding it is. That's where most men break, not from suffering, but from doing everything in their power not to feel it. Dostoevsky didn't glamorize pain. He studied it, he lived it, and he saw what most men still can't. Suffering awakens the soul, but only if you stop running from it. You think pain is the enemy, that if you can just heal fast enough, grind hard enough, distract long enough, you'll outrun it. You won't, because pain has nowhere else to go. It waits, it builds, it watches you chase women, achievements, fake pleasures, and then it reminds you who's really in control. Every breakdown you've had wasn't sabotage. It was an invitation, a compass, your anxiety, pointing to where your truth is being suffocated, your depression, dragging you back into the part of you you've abandoned, your heartbreak, forcing you to confront the illusion you clung to just to avoid being alone. This is the language of pain. It doesn't speak in words. It speaks in collapse. And until you learn to listen, you'll keep calling it bad luck. You'll keep numbing it with routine, validation, porn, and noise. You'll keep missing the fact that pain doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to redirect you. That's the key line. Pain isn't here to break you. It's here to redirect you. So how do you stop avoiding and start aligning? It begins with solitude. Not isolation. Solitude. Intentional silence. A space where no one's feeding you dopamine. No woman soothing your wounds. No algorithm guiding your thoughts. Just you and what you've been avoiding. This is where truth lives, and it's the most violent place you'll ever visit. Then comes brutal honesty. Not journaling about goals or writing down affirmations. I'm talking about confession, about bleeding on the page. What lie am I living? What am I pretending not to know? Who would I be if I stopped performing? Write it. Speak it. Break from it. Because your soul doesn't respond to fake positivity. It responds to truth, even when it burns. And finally, transmutation. All that energy you're wasting on avoiding pain, you need to weaponize it, channel it, into your body, into your art, into your mission, into a life that stops bleeding in silence and starts fighting with presence. This isn't about healing, it's about alchemy. You don't escape the pain, you convert it. Dostoevsky's greatest characters didn't survive by avoiding darkness. They entered it, and they emerged transformed. That's what you need to do. Not read more, not consume more, not wait for some magic moment to feel ready. You'll never feel ready, because transformation doesn't feel safe. It feels like death, and in a way, it is. It's the death of the you that numbed everything, the you that coasted, the you that was so terrified of hurting again, he never risked feeling anything real. So here's your map: solitude, brutal honesty, creative transmutation. 3 tools, 1 direction, inward. Because pain isn't the thing that ruins men. Avoiding it is. Face it, and you become dangerous. Avoid it, and you stay a ghost in your own life. The world will tell you healing is linear, that if you stay positive, read enough, visualize enough, you'll make it out. But Dostoevsky knew better. He knew survival isn't random. It's not about luck. It's not about good vibes. It's earned. In the dark, in silence, in the private, invisible wars you fight alone. The men who rise, they weren't chosen. They weren't spared. They were forged in collapse. Because Dostoevsky believed resurrection doesn't happen without descent. You don't get to rise until you fall. You don't get rebirth without death. You don't get peace until you walk through your own hell and see what's really burning. And right now, whether you admit it or not, you're in it. You're not just tired. You're at war with the parts of yourself you buried. And that war doesn't end by pretending it isn't happening. It ends by entering it, by looking at everything you've avoided, your guilt, your addictions, your failures, your weakness, your cowardice, and saying, I'm not running anymore. That's where everything changes. Not when you win, but when you stop lying. Because every time you lie to yourself, every time you pretend you're okay, you kill the man who could have made it. You either die pretending or suffer consciously and come back different. Different doesn't mean perfect. It means aware. It means awake. It means dangerous again. Because you felt the edge and you didn't flinch. Dostoevsky's characters didn't transcend their demons by escaping them. They faced them in prison cells, in addiction, in isolation, in shame. And when they walked out, they weren't soft. They weren't passive. They were real. And real men don't need saving because they've already survived what should have broken them. That's the path, not comfort, not clean affirmations, not some Pinterest version of masculinity. The path is fire. It's relapse. It's ugly. It's lonely. But on the other side is a man who doesn't shake when life tests him because he already walked through hell and he walked out not untouched, but unshakable. That's what you're being called to become. Not better, not more liked, not more healed, just real, and real is rare. So if you're in it now, if everything hurts, if nothing makes sense, if you're drowning, don't run. Descend, because your hell isn't your end. It's your crucible, and only men who confront it ever walk out truly alive. Let's stop pretending. You weren't okay. You were never okay. You just got good at going numb, good at smiling on cue, good at calling collapse discipline, good at telling everyone you're figuring it out, but you weren't figuring anything out. You were fading, slowly, quietly, behind screens, behind nice clothes, behind sarcasm and fake peace and, I'm just focusing on myself, but you weren't focusing. You were escaping, and the worst part, you convinced yourself that feeling nothing was progress, that your silence meant healing, that your stillness meant strength, but it didn't. It meant death, spiritual death. Dostoevsky said the man who refuses to confront himself will suffer, not because life is cruel, but because the soul doesn't tolerate lies. And that's what your suffering was. Not punishment, not karma, not bad luck. It was your soul begging you to stop pretending, to stop hiding, to stop calling sedation success. Because here's the truth, no woman will save you. No job, no amount of money, No perfect routine, no sudden breakthrough. None of it will fix what you still haven't faced. You thought the next goal would give you peace. You thought the next relationship would restore your power. You thought the next version of yourself would finally feel whole. But the ache is still there, isn't it? The restlessness, the guilt, the quiet feeling in your chest that says, something's missing, and I'm the reason why. That's what you've been running from. And if you don't stop running, you'll get everything you wanted and still feel like a fraud in your own life. Because nothing external fills the void of unlived truth. Nothing external erases the betrayal of self. So here it is, the mirror. No more filters, no more fantasy. You weren't fine, you were asleep. And the parts of you that broke, they didn't break from failure. They broke because you ignored them, abandoned them, silenced them just to keep moving. But they're not silent anymore. They're screaming through your habits, your addictions, your numbness, your stagnation. And now, you either wake up or you disappear slowly, successfully, forever pretending you made it, because you didn't make it. Not if you still feel empty, not if you're still performing, not if you're still scared to sit in a room with yourself. No noise, no dopamine, no mask. This is where it turns. Not when you fix everything, but when you feel again, when you allow the ache to speak, when you stop running and say, this is who I've been, but it's not who I'm becoming. That's what Dostoevsky was really warning you about. Not external destruction, internal denial, the kind that kills you while you keep functioning, the kind that sedates you until nothing matters, the kind that makes you smile while your soul bleeds underneath. Final line, you were never weak. You were just unconscious. And now, you see, and once you see, you never go back.